Hi, this is Tavi Greiner, Astronomy.FM's Vice President of Communications. If you enjoy our programming, please let us know with a donation to Astronomy.FM/donate. We really do rely on your support, and it's true, every little bit counts.
AFM.
The sun is yellow, Sirius is blue, and good grief, the sky is too. I like listening to the voice of the universe, Astronomy.FM radio.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Comet Watch. And welcome to the very first Comet Watch of 2018. So, without further ado, I'll introduce our resident show people. Mary, would you like to say hello?
Hi, it's Mary McIntyre.
Neil?
And good evening, everybody. It's Neil Norman.
And of course, it's myself, Nick Evetts. Now, as always, we always post that we're about to start when we're getting ready to do this show on Facebook. So, of course, in our friends groups, we often get replies. Comet Watch hasn't said anything yet, but North Hope Branch Astro did respond. Jeff Toback has said, Nick, you guys should think about shaking up the format once in a while, allow folks to call in to heckle the guests and on a live version with a bit of an audience Q&A. Well, Jeff, if you're up for that, then you can come on and do that particular show. Guy Wells says, questions for the panels. Well, yes, we are trying to organise a live show using the AFM chat room, and I need to speak with Michael Forrester and Rob Cohen so we can all schedule this and schedule the guests, obviously, so that they can be there and be ready. Because the nice thing about recording the show, of course, is we can just do it any old time we like, but if we want to go live, we have to really arrange that and fit it into the schedule. It also means we can't overrun. We have to stick to 1 hour if we're live normally. So, as I say, we'll go to what we always do first, and I know we always get complaints about this, but I don't care. I love the shipping forecast for comets. So I'm going to kick us off with the latest discoveries from December 19th. Simon Liao, or Liu, reports a Kreutz Group comet in real-time C3 images.
December the 19th, discovery of 2017 W2 Leonard reported.
Also on December the 19th was the discovery of 2017 W3 periodic comet Gibbs reported.
Also on December the 19th, discovery of 2017 X1 Pan-STARRS reported.
December the 21st, Chateau-Bloom-Plard reports a Kreutz Group comet in real-time C3 images.
And also on the 21st of December, Chateau-Bloom-Plard reports a Kreutz Group comet in real-time C2 images.
Also on the 21st of December, Masanori Uchina reports a Kreutz Group comet in real-time C2 images.
Okay, apologies for the pronunciation of this one. December the 22nd, Kritzjov Kida reports a Kreutz Group comet in real-time C3 images.
December the 22nd, and Tree Prescott reports a Kreutz Group comet in real-time C2 images.
December the 28th, Zai Jian Zhu reports a Kreutz Group comet in real-time C3 images.
December the 30th, discovery of 2017 Y1 Pan-STARRS reported.
And again on the 3rd, discovery of 2017 Y2 Pan-STARRS was reported.
Okay, on January the 2nd, Warchort-Bloom-Plard reports a Kreutz Group comet in real-time C3 images.
And on January the 5th, Warchort-Bloom-Plard reports another Kreutz Group comet in real-time C3 images.
And on January the 5th, the sad news that Thomas Bopp, the co-discoverer of 1995-01, died at age 68.
On January the 8th, discovery of 2017 AB5 Pan-STARRS reported.
Then January the 11th, we have the discovery of 2017 Y3 Leonard reported.
January 11th was the discovery of 2018 A1 Pan-STARRS reported.
January the 17th, recovery of 2013 CU-129 as 2018 A2 periodic Pan-STARRS reported.
Again on the 17th of January, discovery of 2018 A3 Atlas reported.
Again, on the 17th of January, discovery of 2018 A4 periodic pan-stars reported.
Again on January the 17th, discovery of 2018 A5 periodic pan-stars reported. And Mary, you get the last one.
Okay, so on the 17th of January was the last update to the site, and there is a warning here that updates may be intermittent over the next few months. So if there haven't been any recent updates, try the German Comet group page or Seiichi Yoshida's page for more information. Also the Liga Iberoamericana de Astronomía. You can also look there for observations as well.
Okay, so current comet magnitudes 9th of January, and observable region also 9th of January. Going to kick off with Heinz 2017 T1, magnitude 10.5, it's fading, observable 90 degrees north to 5 degrees south, visible all night. Last visual observation was January 2018.
Then we have Pan-STARRS 2016 R2, currently magnitude 11.5 and steady, observable 85 degrees north to 50 degrees south, best viewed in the evening, and the last visual observation for that was January 2018.
Next is 62P, Su Shinzan, magnitude 12, but fading, 65 degrees north to 45 degrees south, best viewed in the morning, and was last seen December 2017.
Next is 24P Shamus, magnitude 12, fade, and it's the 55 degrees north to 35 degrees south. It's a morning object, last visually observed in 2017 December.
Then we have Pan-STARRS 2016 N2, currently magnitude 12.5 and brightening, observable 90 degrees north to 10 degrees north, best viewed in the morning, and the last visual observation was December 2017.
Next is the old friend of ours, 2015 V2, magnitude 12.5, but it's fading and currently in poor elongation, and last seen in September 2017.
Next is 3200 Phaeton, magnitude 13, steady, it's in conjunction, and the last visual observation was December 2017.
240P NEAT, that is currently magnitude 13 question mark, steady, 35 degrees north to 50 degrees south. That's an evening object, but there haven't been any visual observations reported as yet.
Here we go for our old friend 29P, Schwarzmann-Wagmann, magnitude 13, question mark, because it varies, of course. Observable 45 degrees north to 20 degrees south in the early morning, and was last reported in October 2017.
Next is Assassin 2017-01. A magnitude 13, it's fading, it's observable 90 degrees north to 25 degrees north, it's an all-night object, last visually observed December 2017.
Then we have Pan-STARRS 2016 M1, magnitude 13.5 question mark, brightening, currently at poor elongation, and no visual observations yet reported on that one.
And we end with Pan-STARRS 2015-01, magnitude 13.5, question marks, steady, 85 degrees north to 5 degrees north. Best viewed in the morning, but hasn't been observed since July 2017. Sorry, Nick?
Sorry, that's okay, my fault. Now, so the observable region is an approximate indication of the latitude in which the comet may be seen. Under good conditions, comets may be visible outside of this range. The period when visible is for the UK, if the comet is visible from the UK. Otherwise, for 40 degrees south of the equator where appropriate. I really want to thank Nick James for this really excellent... Well, Nick James, John Shanklin, Dennis Buchetsky for this wonderful site. One word, beginners will often find comets fated than about 7th magnitude difficult to locate. If you do go to the BAA Comet section page, they do have finder charts available to make life a little bit easier. And of course there are some very good websites, particularly like the Sky Live Comet section, which will give you a very good star map, as well as the comet's location and good estimates on magnitude. So, with that said, we're going to... Oh, one thing I do need to say, I just remembered about this. There is to be a Pro-Am observing campaign on 46P Witteren in 2018. There is a brief observing window for UK observers in September, which will be useful to determine the magnitude parameters at this return. but it as obviously is best seen from the southern hemisphere during this period, as most comets, unfortunately, at the moment. It moves quickly into the evening sky in mid-November and should be a naked eye object in December. Again, I'm not counting my chickens until they hatch. It makes a close approach to Earth on December 18th, 2018. Sorry, December 16th, I beg your pardon. Passing 0.078 AU from us. It should remain within visual range until March. So if you can get out and look for this is one to start getting ideas together, maybe setting up an observation team. Certainly images will be needed, and visual observations and visual estimates on magnitude. So having said that, it's time to move to the next phase of our show, and we have a special guest. Our special guest, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Wendy Clark. I live in Felsted, Essex in the UK, and I manage my husband's business, day-to-day administration, and have done that for the last 24 years. I'm a very amateur astronomer. I still consider myself that. I do have my own telescope set up. When I'm not using that or remote scoping, I like to draw space rockets and space launches, and I also tap dance for fun. So if this goes completely Pete Tong here tonight, you'll be hearing me tapping away in the background.
Now, I also happen to know that you're also involved with the Astro Farm in France. Is that correct?
That is correct. Andrew has been asking me for some time to visit so that he can get to grips with hunting for comets and asteroids, and also for learning how to use astrometrica so that he can get the correct astrometry and photometry and be able to report himself to the Minor Planet Centre, and also hopefully obtain an observatory code.
Yeah, I think that's the holy grail for all amateur observers with their own observatories, getting an observatory code. Now, just 1 second, I'm going to get Neil back in because he's dropped again. Don't you really love Skype?
Sure.
Neil probably remembers the show from a certain location, 4-letter location, where we dropped every few minutes, and it was not fun. I've still got files scattered. I'm desperately trying to put the lost show back together. Neil, are you back with us?
I am. I must apologise. My connection keeps dropping.
Well, I will keep an eye on your connection, and if you drop, I will call you back. And you know what? Everybody keeps hearing me all the time on quite a few shows, so this month I'm going to leave the show in the capable hands of Neil and Mary. Take it away, guys.
Do you want to go first, Neil?
Go on then. Wendy, tell us a little bit about your routines that you get involved, because you do a lot of the online sort of thing, don't you?
The remote telescopes, yes.
Yeah, the remoting, yes.
I actually got into that by sheer chance back in January 2015. I saw a Twitter tweet by Oxford University saying that Nick Howes, the astronomer, was going to be giving a workshop. So I toyed with the idea of attending this, and I actually messaged Nick directly and asked if he thought the workshop would be okay for an amateur or whether it be completely out of my league. To which he replied, absolutely not. I'll try to cover everything at all levels. And it had been a long time since I'd been a student, so he did cover quite a lot. And he stood for nearly 8 hours with minimal breaks. And I needn't have worried. I sat at the back of the workshop between a UK SEDS intern and a BSc student in astronomy from the University of Central Lancashire. My laptop was whirring away, working, trying to keep up with Nick. The rest of them were struggling, so I needn't have worried at all. And Nick was going through all of the remote telescope workings for us, and I don't remember much about the drive home, because I was just constantly thinking about everything I'd learnt. And the best thing that came out of that workshop was that the overview of the iTelescope network really got me going. It helped me with my own setup, and not only did it help me with my own setup, but it helped me to get to grips with software I wouldn't have dreamt of touching. It really did completely launch me into the Comet world, because although I'd been interested up until that point, I think it was more kind of a visual thing and not so involved, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you find any other tips when you went to Astrofarm as well? Because I know after our first visit there, we came back in anger and really sorted out a lot of issues in our home observatory.
I think I'd already managed to sort out a fair amount of my own issues in the last few years. The setup I currently have, which is a triplet reflector and a go-to Celestron AVX. The Celestron AVX has had some issues with the drive system, and that's currently actually in for Hypertune and Stellar Drive upgrade, which I'm going to pick up very shortly. But I think one of my main problems was that I couldn't get guiding going, and I struggled along looking at the forums and, you know, Stargazers Lounge and various other things for months and months and months on end and not getting anywhere. And then just one day it happened. I had the setup. I was getting the setup outside within 20-30 minutes rather than an hour, and then sort of 2 hours later flapping around trying to work out what the hell I was doing. And all of a sudden it just happened, and I thought, well, what have I done that's right, you know? And then I realised that it was a combination of things, really. And I tried to, if I see anyone struggling now, especially on the Facebook, I tried to sort of say to them, look, have you got the latest updated software for what you're using on? And if you have you rebooted your laptop? Have you rebooted your PC? Because Windows and various other things don't take all the information in. If you've just installed software, they don't take it in until you've hard booted that. It doesn't go into the registry until then. Right. And so many people do download stuff and think it's going to work straight off. And you plug all your USBs in and everything else, and your drivers start loading up. And then all of a sudden you go to Windows 10 or something, and the whole thing just falls over because it's not been loaded into the registry. And this is so crucial. If you update software, any software, just reboot. It's a pain, but just do it, because you'll find that things will work so much better that way.
Yeah, it's good to just kind of iron those little things out, because like you say, people quite often these days, you don't really reboot computers the way that we used to. No. We were talking just the other day about how the old days you had to shut things down and turn it off at the end of each day, but nobody does that now. So it's really important to remember to do those things.
Yes, it is.
No, you've been really helpful with me in the past when I was struggling with software, and it's really nice to know that there are people out there like you that do help people that are struggling. So I think that's great.
Yeah, I've never really been afraid of kind of launching into any software at all. I was very fortunate many years ago when I first started work that my dad worked for Rank Xerox. And I was able to find a job there, a temporary job there, learning how to use the very first kind of word processors. And I think that kind of set me on a course so that I would not be afraid of touching anything and thinking, oh, I'm going to break that, I'm going to crash the system or whatever. So now I'm very good at going ahead and just hitting buttons. What does this do? What does that do? Kind of thing. So I've never really been afraid of that, or to learn new stuff.
No, that's good. And very important with astronomy, because there's always something new to learn.
It is, and I'm still learning. I'm learning every time I go and set up outside. Every time I go on to the remote telescopes as well, I've learned how to write my own scripts. I've also learned that you need to check them, because sometimes I've gone ahead and I've written a script for iTelescope Network, and I may have been after a comet, everything's in there. I've got the the times in there that I want, the exposure time, everything's right, and then all of a sudden I've forgotten that I've left out one particular digit or something, and you just need to keep checking things, especially when you're using the remote scopes.
How much of your time do you think you now split between remote and physical observing?
Well, very lately, because my mount has been in for service. It's been there since November. So since November, I've used the remotes continually. But I find they're good for the things that I can't personally see here in the Northern Hemisphere. My favourite scopes over at Siding Spring tend to be the larger ones, because they're deep sky. And if you're looking for a faint comet or a faint asteroid or a nova or something like that, you're going to get much better signal to noise ratio in some of the bigger scopes. And I do love using the BCL, which is named after the famous astronomer women, and it's great fun to be able to actually control something from so far away, and know that even if you don't get it right, that the on-site engineers are there to help you.
Have you come across any negativity with regards to remote imaging? Because I know some of our mutual astro friends certainly get it in the neck for their remote work.
I think there's a degree of that, in that to them it's kind of like cheating. I can see their point of view, because if you're observing from your own telescope and then you're imaging, then you're doing everything yourself. But I disagree that there's some kind of cheating going on, because I think if you're actually using that data and you're contributing to the community, then I think it's all good. I'm a great believer in pro-am campaigns and people collaborating. I think we need to stop competing, stop arguing, and just start collaborating, all of us.
Yeah, well said. But no, we can control our observatory laptop from the dining room, so technically that's remote observing, but nobody criticises us for doing that, and there's no different, really. You use TeamViewer and you're doing it from the dining room.
Exactly, and this is what I do now as well. I tend to sit in the conservatory. I have a 20-metre USB cable goes out to the mount, and everything just sits underneath that. Once I've done my visual observing, then I go to my imaging afterwards.
I was going to say on the remote imaging side, even Damien Peach remote images.
Yes, he does.
And
yes, he does.
He makes it very, very clear on the image that it's a remote imaging session. And to be honest, in a lot of cases, the object we want to image, and particularly in regards to comets, just may not be available to the Northern Hemisphere. I'm a Northern Hemisphere observer, like the rest of us here. So if we want to look at a comet that's in the Southern Hemisphere, the only way you can do this is to literally use a remote telescope. I think the important thing, though, is when you're using a remote scope, is to make it clear it's a remote image. I'm sure you've all seen the image of Eta Carini I posted after last night. The name of the telescope is there, the observatory name and number is there, and the full details are there. So it must be very, very clear, yes, I'm remote imaging. I like it. I think it gives northern observers a good chance to grab southern comets. I shouldn't say that really, because Terry might think I'm trying to get into his job. But the thing is, it's an opportunity we have to perhaps see a comet that may not come north at all when it's close to us.
Yes, exactly.
Well, it may give you access to scopes that will give you access to a comet that would otherwise be too faint for your equipment as well, because we don't all have 1/2 meter, 2 meter telescopes in our garden. So even in the northern hemisphere comets, they can be pretty faint. So I think it's all good, and I really get cross when people get grumpy about it.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is,
I must admit, one of the things.
sorry, I was going to say, well, the thing is, we are still processing that image. We get the FITS files and process those to produce our images.
Yeah, that's where most of the hard work actually happens, to be honest. So
Yes, I must admit that when I post images, particularly on Flickr website and on Facebook, it doesn't matter what image it is, I've always made sure that there is a brief overview of everything, including the equipment. It does irritate me immensely when people put images up that doesn't sort of kind of give any indication whatsoever of how it was taken, where it was taken, and what it is.
yeah, people sometimes don't even bother putting a title on the picture, let alone any information. So
I think I was only guilty of that once, and I think that was a comet we were all talking about. Nobody was able to get an image at the time, and I went straight onto Slew and managed to get the image, got it up. I think I imaged it. I think within 10 minutes I had it noted and I had it up. Or I just put one up quickly to say, is this the comet we're talking about, guys? 5 minutes later, I took the image down and I put the correctly noted image up with my little box at the bottom or at the top, saying who took it, where it was taken, when, and what it was. Sometimes you have to, but just doing it on a regular basis, we need to know where you got the image from and how you took it.
Yes, I've become a little bit confused sometimes myself, I must admit. In posting some of these images, I try to, as best I can, especially with comets, manage to get north up and east to the left. But I'm not sure if there is a standard that we should be following. There probably is, but I would love to see some kind of detail on that standard so that everyone tries to keep to it as best as they can. I'm not suggesting that anybody should have their hands slapped if they don't, but I just feel that there's not enough information out there as to exactly what's required when you're posting. I try and put everything in, and maybe that's too much.
I think.
well, I do on. Sorry, go on, Neil.
No, Neil.
Sorry.
Nick.
I was going to say, I think the only thing that's required on an image is the name of the imager, what it is, where you took it, time and date, and just that the idea of being able to give them an idea of what the telescope orientation is. It's either north up, left, east left, or whatever. As long as you tell people what it is, then you're home and dry. No one has to abide with north up, east to the left, or whatever. I'm just looking at one of my notes that I keep a notepad. I wrote a notepad, and I have 90% of the information that I need to use. So all I've got to do really is insert the name of the object, the time, the date, observatory code if I've got it, which these days pretty much I have. If it's on a telescope, I just go straight onto their site and look up that particular scope. It tells me exactly what it is. And my system is... Oh, here we go. So, I'm going to quickly scroll to this. You're probably hearing a lot of mouse noise. Sorry. So, yeah. It would, here we go. North is up, east is left. That is what the telescope operator tells me how the object is orientated.
Yes.
So as long as that's there, it tells the people looking at the image what the orientation is. That's the important thing. Anyway, back to you guys.
I was going to say, it does drive me nuts because I always put all the information in the description box on Flickr, and then you share it, and the first question you get is, what telescope was it taken with? It's like, read the description. Something that really drives me batty.
Well, I was taught by Nick when we were at that workshop to make proper notes. I mean, whenever I go looking for a comet, or I'm looking for asteroids, or I'm hunting through images for that kind of thing, and I'm using Astrometrica for data reduction and that, I have a book beside me, and it's just a thing I got out of Tesco's. Actually, the title of it is Thoughts of a Budding Genius, or something along those lines. But I write everything down in there, and I make all the notes. So as I'm doing all the measuring, everything is written down, and I think that's the best way. Even if you write down on a computer, you can't necessarily do that at the same time. I think handwriting is far better. So I make a lot of notes so that I can refer back to them. And then if I do make any reporting to the Minor Planet Centre, and sometimes I don't always report either, especially on remote imaging, if I don't feel that I've got the correct data, I don't report it. But if I'm reporting it, I've got those notes to refer back to. And if I can't find something as well, I remember when I was at camp once in Wales, and I think it was cloudy, and we had our laptop out, and I was mucking about on the laptop trying to find something in an image. I could see it was moving across there. I knew it was an object moving, and Nick happened to be at camp that time, and I remember him coming over, and he said, "You struggling?" I said, "Yes." Down, cracked his knuckles and said, "Right, what's the problem?" I said, I don't know what this asteroid is. I know it's an asteroid. And an hour or so later, we worked it out. We managed to get a signal and managed to get through and to the Minor Planet Centre and everything. And we found out it was the asteroid named after Stanley Kubrick. I'll never forget that.
Oh, wow.
We had to make proper notes. It was really cool because it was coming up as an unknown. And something that's an unknown, your first thing you think is, oh, well, I've actually discovered something. But of course, you haven't. 9 times out of 10, it's already been named. But that's the exciting bit, I think.
Can you remember the first comet you observed?
Yes, I can. It was actually Lovejoy.
Oh, really?
2014 Lovejoy, because up until that point, I don't think I'd really paid them too much attention. I'd already seen comets in the sky when I was younger, but I'd never had a telescope until I was 40. And the first telescope I got was purchased by my husband, and that was for Christmas. And when I opened the box, I sat there and cried, and he couldn't work out why. He said, "What's the problem?" I said, "Well, I've always wanted one of these, but I've just never really managed at the time to afford one." So that kind of started me off when I was 40. Up until that point, I'd been looking in binoculars with my dad's old binoculars that he'd used at Biggin Hill to spot planes.
Well, Nick was always saying, if people say, what telescope should I get, the answer is a pair of binoculars, because you learn the sky better with them.
Yes, you do. Yes.
Neil, do you want to?
Yeah.
I've been hugging our guest.
That's okay. I was just, Wendy, what's your favourite? Because we together have a Facebook group, don't we? We on a very special object, don't we?
Yes.
We're moving away from comets for a second.
Yes.
Because you do a lot of very good work about Tabby's star. Would you like to tell us a bit about that, please?
Yes. That's kind of linked to some other work that I've done with remote telescopes. One of the very first objects that I observed using the remotes was a nova in Sagittarius, and I think that was preceded by another one the same year. So I kept an eye on that nova for some time, and I made it a kind of rule that if I saw something via social media, particularly, or via any of the astronomers' telegrams, that there was something up, so to speak, then I would follow it. And I made a point of following Tabby's star. And I gathered data in various filters over a period of time. I think it was nearly a year. And I actually adopted the star on the AAVSO website for a while. And then I forgot to renew it, and I renewed it again last year. So I'm starting to image it again now. Hopefully will be from my own setup as well as the remotes. But it's an interesting region. There's a lot going on there. And I happen to think it's dust, yes. But I also think that there's a planet that's broken up somewhere around that particular object.
Very exciting indeed.
It is.
So do you think that you would be likely to get into actually hunting for new objects, or are you mostly just following up on other ones?
I mostly follow up on other ones. I think I would like to get into hunting. I've recently just applied for a new job, which may sort of shake things up a little bit in terms of when I can observe and when I can't. I think I'm going to be starting at 4 a.m, which is not too bad because I kind of wake up about 3 anyway most nights. But
I'm usually only going to bed about then. So.
Yes, it's going to be a different thing for the next few months to work out exactly what's going on. But my intentions, particularly this year, I'm looking to observe as soon as I get my telescope back and working. I'm looking to observe R2 Pan stars myself. I've actually got that on remote scopes. I'm really looking forward to the end of the year. I know Nick was talking about 46P were telling earlier, and I know that the magnitude estimates are kind of a little bit high, but I think that could be interesting, and I really would be interested in taking part in the campaign that's due to happen.
There is there's a word of caution for the newer people who are going to be tuning in, hopefully, and listening about this Vertanen comet, as it's a very, very old periodic comet, and they'll see magnitude 3 pop up. It's going to sound like it's something really exceptional. Well, the trouble is, because it's so old, it's going to be very diffuse. So to see it naked eye, you're going to have to be in quite a dark place. But to be honest with you, it is better to view it with binoculars. A good set of 10 by 50s would be absolutely perfect, I should think, for that one.
Yes.
And there's another comet as well later on in the year, 38, I think it's 38P Ottoman or something like that. I think that's going to be another one that's very diffuse. It's a Halley type comet, or Halley type comet. So
38P, yes.
Yeah, so those that are just getting into this and thinking that these are going to be quite very nice to see, that you could be disappointed because they're very old objects and have been around the sun several times. So
yes, they tend to lose a bit of their oomph, I think, particularly if they've come particularly close to Jupiter as well. I think that kind of affects them a lot.
Yeah, and we've got 21P Jacobini Zinner. Don't forget, we've got that one sort of about the summertime or late summer when it should be getting
September.
into
Yeah, September.
September, yeah, that would be good. That'd be a nice one to see. I'm looking forward to see that one, actually.
It might be a decent year for the Northern Hemisphere for a change.
It should be.
So we had the weather, Mary.
Well, yeah. So what's your sky like in Essex? Do you suffer a lot with light pollution, or are you in a dark area?
I'm in a pretty dark area. We have one street light close. I say close, it's about a quarter of a mile away. And then the school, the Felsted school, tends to blast out a bit of light now and again. But generally speaking, it's dark here. And after midnight, the nearest town, which is Braintree, 5 miles away, they turn their lights off. And that's really visible. If I'm doing things like star trails with my camera, you can see in the middle of the run when those lights go off.
It makes a huge difference, doesn't it?
Incredible to see. All of a sudden, the sky just turns this deep blue. It's really beautiful.
Because our village turned them off at midnight, and the difference it makes just looking at the Milky Way when it starts to become visible in the spring over in the east, because most of our village is in the east from where we are. The Milky Way just suddenly pops. It's like it's been switched on. Although we are the only region that turn off our lights, it just makes a massive difference, and I think every village should do it, quite frankly.
Yes. I mean, I'm in a rural area here. We are slightly affected by further development that's happened over in Chelmsford. There's a large development of housing over there at the moment, and that is increasing the light pollution towards the east, I would say the southeast. But generally speaking, I can't really see over that way because there's a lot of hedgerow, so I don't tend to worry about that in any event.
No, that's good.
No, because we actually live quite close together, don't we, Wendy? We're only a few miles apart.
We do, yes, we do. We've yet to meet up, Neil. We should.
We're going to have to. We will have to. Absolutely. Yes, you was talking about the Comet R2, which has been very, very exciting of recent times, hasn't it?
Yes. It's looking very pretty indeed.
It certainly is. There's been some. What do you think of the images that have been posted on Facebook? I can't mention names, but there's one person who seems to be able to draw out a lot of detail better than others. What do you think about the processing that these people are doing on this particular Comet? You've seen a lot of images without naming names, of course. I'm not going to ask you to do that, but
no, absolutely. I do know what you're talking about here. Yes.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot to be said for stretching an image, particularly in the right software. But if you are combining LRGB, for instance, or just RGB even, I think you should know when to stop, because I don't like to see anything that's kind of not what it should be, because that gives the wrong impression. That really does. And to me, if I look very closely, and I tend to as well, I zoom into everything, I can tell you, if I look very closely, I can see that something's been added that wasn't there. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yes, it certainly does. Yes, and I know we can't mention names, but it's an issue that Cherry Lovejoy is not happy with as well, because it's false, shall we say? I can't think of another way of putting it, and it's
false representation.
Of no scientific, it's of no scientific relevance at all. So
yes, I would have to agree with Terry. That's completely wrong. I mean, I can stretch an image, and you'll see a great deal of noise come into play. Now, I can do beautiful images, I can do pretty ones, I can do scientific ones, and I can do something in between. I prefer to see the something in between from everyone. It doesn't matter if there's a bit of noise in there. I mean, very often I'm imaging comets, and the moon is quite close. And that causes a fair amount of glare from one side, so I may have cropped the image, I may have cut it, but I'll always say that in the description.
Yeah, I have to. I have to admit, when I'm using remote telescopes, sometimes I'm really pushing the scope because I'm on the soft horizon. Particularly if it's a comet, I know it's not going to rise very high in that sky. One of the scopes I use is a 0.5 meter Ritchie Crichton astrograph, and it has I think you can only start from about 30 degrees going up for this particular telescope. Now, you can fudge it a little when you're putting in your RA and DEC, and it will tell you you are on the soft horizon of the telescope. The image may be poor, but if it's a case of you really need to get an image, and people are trying to get images for pro-am collaborations, then so be it. And make a comment somewhere in the post. I was pushing it on the soft horizon, hence noise or just a poor picture.
Yes, I can remember when I was imaging 67p for the Paco campaign, and I remember the very last one I tried to grab when it was, I think, about magnitude 19 point something or other, that was when the zodiac light was coming into play. And my goodness, did the noise increase. It was a real job trying to pin that thing down on the image. And yeah, you're going to have that. But I think that shows the commitment of looking for these things and trying to get or the very last image or the very last image of the day or something. People are committed to doing that, really. And if you're not producing pretty pictures, that's not the idea. It's you're producing something that you can actually measure. If you can't measure it, then there isn't much use. But you are producing something you can measure and share.
I think it's an issue in all astronomy, really, with image processing, isn't it? When stuff gets pushed a bit too much, but with stuff like comets, where we need actual scientific measurements of them, particularly because we quite often are only going to get one stab at it, it's not about that. It's not about the pretty picture necessarily, is it? It's like you say, it's about being scientific, and it's very difficult because people that are new to the hobby will all see these pictures. I mean, I remember quite recently somebody had taken an absolutely insanely gorgeous Jupiter image. I said, "What telescope do I need to see this?" Well, none, because you're never going to see it. And that's certainly true particularly with comets, because they're very faint, they're very diffuse a lot of the time, and people think they're going to go out and see that, and they're never ever going to. Well, not often anyway.
No, I think that's generally the case when I first observed comets, and then began to put the pictures together. I became very aware of that people need to realise that what you're seeing through the eyepiece is not what you see sometimes on these pictures, and vice versa. You've got to use a little bit of averted vision sometimes to see them.
Yeah, it makes a big difference doing that.
It does. I mean, I can remember seeing Lovejoy actually in my eyepiece and actually being able to slow my telescope to it first time. And it was very low at the time along my horizon. There were trees and goodness knows what in the way, and it was a very fuzzy night as well, and I was kind of leaping all over the garden when I found this thing. It was amazing, because
what I call a squealing moment.
yes it was wonderful.
Do you remember Comet Hale-Bopp though, Wendy? I mean, I know you said that you weren't really into it at that time, but do you remember seeing it, or Comet Hyakutake the year before in '96? Do you remember?
I do remember
looking out.
I do remember seeing Hale-Bopp in the sky. Yes, at that time I obviously didn't have a telescope. I really was probably my focus was somewhere else, I would say, but I did look at it through binoculars. So, I can say to you that I wasn't actually missing out. That I was a lot younger.
Good.
And there were other things obviously going on.
Yeah, I saw that. I didn't have binoculars or a camera, but I definitely watched it every night. And that was the first comet I ever saw, because I never did find Comet Hawley, so everyone else seemed to, but I couldn't find it. I looked every night as a very young child and never saw it, so I was really spoilt with Hale-Bopp as the first.
Yes. Well, my first camera was a Russian Zenit given to me by my father, and it was constantly jam, so I never kind of considered taking photographs of things like this until the technology moved on a little bit more, really.
So what was the first comet you imaged rather than just observed?
It was C2014 Lovejoy.
Oh, okay.
So that was the very first one that I actually attempted to image, and that kind of got me a little bit further along. I think one of the reasons I ended up going to the workshop that Nick did was that I was frustrated with the way things like Deep Sky Stacker were working, and whether you could get the comet in one place and the stars in the other, and all this kind of thing. And I still to this day stack them individually.
I struggle with that. I can never get that to work.
Yes, I think there is an option now for you to be able to do it all in one hit, but I would not recommend it. I would say then actually use the Comet for one and the stars for the other, and then combine the two in lighten mode, because that's the best way to do it.
Right.
In Photoshop. I've gone through several processes trying to get this right myself, and again, to me it's not about the pretty pictures. I actually prefer to see comet pictures with stars trailing.
Me too. It shows how dynamic it is, doesn't it?
It does. It shows the dynamics. It shows that this object is moving. And
I must admit, Wendy, sorry, I was just saying, I'm actually looking at some of your images now on Comet Watch, and just what you're saying now, when you imaged 2017 T1 Heinz, that's a remarkable job that you did with that one, because it's shifting across the sky at a serious rate.
Do you know, I had so much trouble measuring that one. In fact, I remember the NPC coming back to me with I think it was Gareth came back to me with a one-word line on the reporting, which said discordant. And I thought, my goodness, I need to brush up on my thesaurus. So I actually asked Nick, James at the BAA, I said, what does discordant mean? So he said, well, that's just kind of where the observations or the reporting that you've made is not quite as accurate as it should be. So I've actually yet to go back over that data, because I just haven't had the time. But I imagine it's out by like an arc second or something ridiculous. But obviously not in line with everything that everyone else has reported. So yeah. That's also been a little bit of a frustration for me as well in trying to report to the NPC, not accurately, because I try to do that to my best of my abilities. I'm always cross-checking things, but I found initially when I tried reporting that it would not accept the lines that I was sending over, and I didn't really think that their website gave enough information for any newcomers as to how you were meant to lay these things out. I mean, I kept getting an error throwing up saying to me that my reporting was to point naught whatever of a magnitude, and I didn't know how to change that, and I couldn't remember what Nick had taught me in Astrometrica as to how to change that. And I literally emailed the guy back at Harvard University and said, look, I'm reporting this correctly apart from this one line. Is there any way you know how to change this down to just 0.1 magnitude rather than 0.01 in Astrometrica? And he said, I haven't a clue. And I thought, my goodness, you're from Harvard. And I'm from kind of ethics.
Just a quick comment. You're saying about your first Comet image. For me, I have to say it was Comet Holmes. So about 2000, sometime between 2007 2008. Right. Yes. So that's when I first got into hardcore. Well, went totally to the dark side, because my first visual was during the poor apparition of Comet Hawley back in the 80s, 86.
I tried so hard and never saw it.
Yeah, mine was Comet Hawley, Haley. However one wants to say
Hawley. Haley is a pop star.
Hawley. And his comets. Yeah, comets.
I can hear Patrick Moore now bending over you saying, Haley is a rock star. Hawley is a mathematician and discoverer of the comet.
I feel his presence. Yes, so I was lucky with that one.
So changing tack slightly, we always ask our guests whether they listen to music when they're processing or observing.
Yes, I do. I listen to various things, actually. I've got a very eclectic taste. Currently, my favourite music is from Stellardrome, which I've been listening to extensively on YouTube. Originally, I found it through I think it was a video made by Andrew Radar, and he'd put together images of the ISS travelling over the Earth at various speeds with this music, and it went on for 4 hours, and I found it very relaxing, and it really helped me to focus as well. So I'm kind of into that a lot at the moment, but I have various tastes. I'm a big Madonna fan, and I also like Gary Newman.
Oh yeah, he's awesome.
Oh, classic.
Yeah, I've got Queen. I've got a couple of new pieces that I've added to the Observatory collection. A Chinese singer called Zhao, and yeah, and a couple of other things. Most of her stuff seems to only be on YouTube. I've seen nothing on the download side for the legitimate downloads anyway, unless you rip it off YouTube. But it goes from everything I have: opera, Queen, goth, Evanescence, that type of stuff.
If the neighbours hack me off, I tend to play Land of Hope and Glory.
Yeah, my old neighbours, if they hack me off, I used to run up a flag every now and again, just for the heck of it, because I've got a radio mast in my old observatory, and the neighbour tried to get it cut down by the council. Didn't win. And of course I just realised, according to what the council communicated at the time, I can actually put radio astronomy equipment in the garden, and she can't do anything about it. Terrible, isn't it? It's apparently my dad had an amateur radio mast up for over 30 years, where I normally observe from in the UK in Kempston Rural, and the council said you can actually improve the mast, you can put whatever you like in now. It's been grandfathered in, it's been there for so long, and then the previous neighbour agreed to it. Your neighbour's out of luck. I'm thinking, yeah, she's just going to love me running my telescope again in the middle of the night. Not. I have actually had people look over the fence. I had the 10-inch Newtonian running, and it makes such a noise. And it's like lights come on, people come and look at the fence. What are you doing? I says, I'm imaging the stars and stuff. I don't get technical with them because don't tell them about comets and things. I'm just imaging space, the universe, and I
remember texting my neighbour once to turn the light off, and they were laughing because they forgot they'd left it on.
So we're fortunate that our next door but one neighbour has just fitted 7 security lights to their house, so that's really helpful for us, as you can imagine.
Hey Neil, do you remember the answer we were given by one of our one of the guys? From one of the big watches.
From a big sky survey. I do know that name, Richard Kowalski. Yes.
Yes.
Oh, no. Cut.
He used a laser pointer.
Jim Scotty with a catapult.
Yes.
Yeah.
Some wonderful inventive ideas.
Yeah, quite.
Air rifle.
Well, we're in the process of the letter writing phase at the moment, but it's something I feel so passionately about. We took this up with the local school and won. I'm happy to fall out with my neighbours over this issue, because if they were just putting them on when people were in the garden, it's one thing, but they're flicking on constantly all night, and they're so sensitive that even a car driving down across the street on the wrong side of the road is setting them off. And this is a big issue. I mean, we're laughing about it, but it is a major problem for a lot of my astronomy friends. They can't image or do any kind of visual observing because of security lights, and it's just so antisocial. And they do fall under the same category as noise nuisance now. They passed a law that means you can prosecute for it if it's affecting people's life or shining into their windows or illuminating their garden, and it rightly so too. And I don't think people realise that it is an offence to actually do this. So anyone out there having this problem, it's worth just googling the rules on this, because as astronomers we want to get out and do actual science. We don't want to be held up because somebody thinks that 3,000 or 4,000 watt security lights is the way to go.
I think that's why I'm looking at rural southwest Wales, or somewhere in the fens, because village is like a few and far between, and the light pollution, particularly in the fens, should be like pretty much zero.
Yeah,
You wouldn't
fingers
go
crossed.
wrong with Southwest Wales. You would really benefit from by going into the Brecon Beacons, Nick.
Yeah, I know. I've got family in Haverfordwest and Pembrokeshire, and they tell me that there are places even close to Fishguard where the skies are really, really good. I can deal with a little bit. I can do with a little bit of glow, but it's where they actually have to light up the whole roundabout, which is over 2 hills away, and on top of a hill, and you can see it, and you know what it is. That's Milton Keynes.
Yeah, and actually, though, they put LED street lights near where they have the astronomy camp.
Yeah, they put lamps right outside on the road.
I know, it's bonkers.
Yes, that was corrected last year, fortunately, because I go to the Astro Camp every year, and I think it was originally the lights were put there because there was a school that needed them, and then the school shut, and so the lights stayed. Now they are the new LEDs, and they do shine downwards, but I have to say, if you're kind of walking underneath them, it's like daylight. And
they are, though. I actually think they're worse because you can't filter them out with anything because they're broad spectrum. And I've done star trails photography workshops with camera clubs where we've gone outside in the street, and like you say, it's like daylight underneath them. It's so hard to take photographs if you're anywhere near them.
Yes, it's quite difficult, really, because I mean, I obviously do the admin for an electrical business, and we encourage people to change their technology indoors to LED because it's more efficient in terms of electricity usage. So, you know, it's a bit of a cross thing going on here. I don't like to see it so bright outside, but I think councils should be turning them off after a certain time anyway. And I do believe that when Astro Camp is on in the Brecons, that they now turn them off.
Oh, that's good to know.
They know that we're there. Yeah.
Well, you know what, folks, it's been a fascinating hour, I must admit. And Wendy, would you come back at a later date and do another show with us?
Of course I would.
Brilliant. So you say we're slightly over the hour, so I think probably this is a good point to say thank you very much, Wendy, for joining us. It's been fascinating, and we look forward to having you back. I will send a copy of the show to you either by Facebook or by Skype, so you've got a download of the polished show, courtesy of our radio producers. So,
thank you.
So I think it's time we all started saying good night. I think. Sorry about this, but I know we could go on for hours. We have done that. I got told off. Neil knows exactly what I mean.
Yeah, popcorn. We had everything out. I had a film on in the background. Everything, live music, everything.
So anyway,
until the sun came.
Yeah.
Up.
So we actually topped out at about 2.5 hours for a show once.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
It was epic.
It was. I think that was when we had Alan Hale amongst our guests. That was.
It's David Iker and Jim Scotty that kept it going.
Yeah, I know. We had an interview with Alan, which was put into the show, and then we had David
about 40 minutes,
and Jim as well, and it was hilarious. It was probably the most brilliant show we ever did.
But for the aficionados out there, there is a missing episode of Comet Watch. There is a.
Oh yes, the missing show.
There is,
Dave Eagle had come on, and about every minute it kept dropping. And I would drop,
but it does exist.
Neil would drop, and
I hate that.
But anyway, so as I say,
I hated that mate so much.
Yeah, me too. So it was great having you, Wendy. So I'm going to say good night and thank you for being with us. Mary,
thank you for having me.
I'm glad to. Mary, your turn.
Yeah, well, belated Happy New Year, everyone, and I hope to see lots of people at European Astro Fest next month. Oh, yeah, well, it's in a couple of weeks, isn't it? So, but yeah, good night from me.
And good night from me, and it's not long until Easter, remember.
Yes, and soon we'll be doing we'll be doing the February show in about 2 or 3 weeks, 2 weeks, I suspect. So, And yes, Jeff Toback, I would still love to have you on a live show, taking those questions from the audience. Good night, everyone. Thank you for listening. We'll be back next month.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night.
We hope that you've enjoyed this program from AFM Radio, the broadcast service of Astronomy.FM. This program has been released under Creative Commons license. Please contact us for details. You may find more of our AFM original programs on our website. It's really easy to find us. We are Astronomy.FM. You may also find us in the iTunes radio listings near the top of the News Talk section, and also as an iTunes podcast selection. We'd love to hear your comments. Please email us at radio@astronomy.fm. Thanks so much for being part of the voice of astronomy around the world and across the known universe. This is Astronomy.FM Radio.
Hi, this is Tavi Greiner, Astronomy.FM's Vice President of Communications. If you enjoy our programming, please let us know with a donation to Astronomy.FM/donate. We really do rely on your support, and it's true, every little bit counts.
AFM